In recent months, members of my administration and officials of the Committee for the Re-election of the President, including some of my closest friends and most trusted aides, have been charged with involvement in what has come to be known as the Watergate affair. These include charges of illegal activity during and preceding the 1972 presidential election, and charges that responsible officials participated in efforts to cover up that illegal activity.
What if the truth you waited decades to hear didn't bring closure, but instead reopened the mystery? What if a confession, finally spoken out loud, answered one historic question while quietly planting a dozen new ones? Tonight, we're diving into a real-life confession that shook American history, reshaped how we understand power and secrecy, and still leaves historians arguing to this day. This is the story of Mark Felt, better known to the world as Deep Throat, and the confession that was supposed to end the Watergate mystery, but instead ensured it would never truly be settled. When the Watergate scandal exploded in the early 1970s, it unraveled a presidency, exposed systemic abuse of power, and permanently changed American politics. At the heart of that scandal was a hidden source, a shadowy figure who fed information to journalists Bob Woodward and Carl Bernstein of The Washington Post. For more than 30 years, the identity of this source remained one of the most closely guarded secrets in modern history. Then, in 2005, the secret was finally revealed. But instead of bringing clarity, it raised unsettling questions about motive, morality, and the cost of truth. To understand why this confession mattered, and why it still troubles historians, we have to go back to the beginning. In June 1972, 5 men were arrested inside the Democratic National Committee headquarters at the Watergate complex in Washington, D.C. At first glance, it looked like a botched burglary. But as Woodward and Bernstein dug deeper, they discovered connections to the Committee to Re-elect the President, known as CREEP, which was tied directly to President Richard Nixon's campaign. As the investigation grew, the reporters relied heavily on an anonymous source, someone deep inside the federal government, who confirmed details, offered guidance, and subtly pointed them in the right direction. This source never handed over documents or gave direct quotes. Instead, he verified facts and warned them when they were close to something big. Woodward famously met this source in underground parking garages, using prearranged signals to communicate. In 1974, the source was given a nickname by Woodward's editor, Deep Throat, a reference to a popular film at the time. The name stuck, and the legend grew. Deep Throat became a symbol of courage, a lone insider risking everything to expose corruption at the highest level of government. But for decades, no one knew who he really was. Speculation ran wild. Was it Henry Kissinger? Was it Alexander Haig? Was it someone closer to Nixon than anyone imagined? Each theory reflected how badly the public wanted to understand who had helped bring down a president. Then, in May 2005, Vanity Fair published an article titled, "I'm the Guy They Called Deep Throat." The author was John D. O'Connor, writing on behalf of his family friend, W. Mark Felt, former Associate Director of the FBI. At 91 years old, frail and suffering from memory issues, Felt confirmed what many insiders had quietly suspected. He was Deep Throat. The revelation stunned the country. Woodward and Bernstein quickly confirmed it, ending the longest-running mystery in American journalism. But almost immediately, the celebration turned complicated. Mark Felt wasn't just an anonymous hero. He was a senior FBI official, second in command under Director J. Edgar Hoover. When Hoover died in 1972, Felt expected to take over the bureau. Instead, President Nixon appointed L. Patrick Gray, an outsider, as acting director. That decision mattered, because suddenly, the confession wasn't just about truth, it was about motive. Felt had been deeply loyal to the FBI and fiercely protective of its independence. Nixon's administration, on the other hand, was aggressively trying to control federal law enforcement and intelligence agencies. Felt believed the White House was interfering in the Watergate investigation, attempting to shut it down before it reached the Oval Office. From one perspective, Felt was a whistleblower acting in defense of democratic institutions. From another, he was a bitter bureaucrat who leaked information because he was passed over for promotion. And that's where the questions begin. Did Mark Felt leak information out of moral outrage or personal resentment? Was he defending democracy or protecting the power of the FBI? Can both be true at the same time? Felt never offered a full, detailed explanation. In his later years, he claimed he acted in the best interest of the country. But critics point out that he didn't go to Congress, didn't testify publicly, and didn't expose everything he knew. Instead, he selectively leaked information through journalists, maintaining control over what became public. That selective leaking raises ethical concerns that still resonate today. Journalists praised Felt for enabling accountability, but law enforcement officials worried about the precedent. If high-ranking officials can secretly leak information based on personal judgment, where does oversight end and vigilantism begin? And then there's the irony. In 1980, Mark Felt was convicted of authorizing illegal break-ins while working at the FBI, specifically targeting the Weather Underground, a radical anti-war group. These break-ins violated civil liberties, and Felt defended them as necessary for national security. President Ronald Reagan later pardoned him. So here's the contradiction that continues to unsettle historians. The man who helped expose presidential abuse of power was also guilty of abusing power himself. That doesn't erase his role in Watergate, but it complicates it. Another unanswered question lies in timing. Why did Felt wait more than 3 decades to confess? Some argue he feared legal consequences. Others believe he wanted to protect his family. Still, others suggest the confession was less his decision and more the result of pressure from relatives seeking recognition or even financial security. The Vanity Fair article sparked debate over whether Felt fully understood the implications of coming forward at his age. His children insisted he wanted credit for his actions. Critics questioned whether a confession made under such circumstances should be treated as definitive. Even Woodward admitted that while he trusted Felt's identity, some details of their interactions were intentionally vague, to protect sources and methods. That means parts of the story may never be fully known. And then there's the broader impact. Watergate fundamentally altered how Americans view their government. It led to reforms, resignations, and a lasting skepticism of political power. Deep throat became shorthand for the idea that truth can survive even in the darkest corridors of authority. But Felt's confession forced the public to reconsider that narrative. Instead of a clean story about good versus evil, it revealed a messier reality, one where personal ambition, institutional loyalty, and moral conviction collide. In the years since, comparisons have been drawn between Felt and modern whistleblowers like Edward Snowden or Chelsea Manning. But the differences matter. Felt operated anonymously within the system and worked with journalists. Others chose direct disclosure, often facing exile or imprisonment. His confession didn't settle the debate, it fueled it. Was secrecy necessary, or was transparency delayed too long? Was anonymity protective, or did it shield accountability? And who gets to decide when leaking information becomes an act of public service? Mark Felt died in 2008. He never gave a full interview walking through every decision he made during Watergate. He never wrote a comprehensive confession explaining his reasoning step by step. So what we're left with is a partial truth, A confession that answered the question of who, but not fully why. And maybe that's the most unsettling part. We like our history clean and resolved. We want heroes and villains, confessions and closure. But real history rarely works that way. It's shaped by flawed people making decisions under pressure, driven by motives that don't fit neatly into moral boxes. Mark Felt's confession reminds us that truth doesn't always arrive with clarity. Sometimes it arrives late, incomplete, and tangled in contradiction. And sometimes, the moment we think the mystery is over. That's when the real questions begin. If you found this story thought-provoking, if it made you reconsider what you think you know about truth, power, and whistleblowers, then this channel is for you. Subscribe for deep, researched stories that go beyond headlines and into the uncomfortable gray areas of history. Like this video if you value thoughtful storytelling, and stay connected, because the next confession we explore may raise even more questions than answers.